What's a movie fact you know that pretty much no one else knows? Might not be that unheard of, but in The Punisher, Kevin Nash plays Russian was supposed to be stabbed with a prop knife, but the stage crew accidentally forgot to swap the real knife with the fake knife at the scene where he gets stabbed. So Nash actually gets stabbed in the chest by Thomas Jane Frank Castle. Both Nash and Jane look at the impact surprised, Nash out of bewilderment, Jane out of terror thinking he just injured the guy. Then they just roll with it. The terror in Jane's face is hilariously genuine when you know the context. The Alamo 2004 is one of the biggest box office bombs of all time. During post-production in 2003, Gods and Generals, the sequel to Gettysburg, was released to horrible reviews and poor box office returns. So much so that Disney forced the Alamo to be recut from its R rating to a PG-13 rating and be pushed back to Easter weekend of 2004. Unfortunately, it was released the same weekend as Passion of the Christ, which overshadowed the release. There was a joke that only in America could Jesus outweigh patriotism on the big screen. The Alamo 2004 is one of the biggest box office bombs of all time. During post-production in 2003, Gods and Generals, the sequel to Gettysburg, was released to horrible reviews and poor box office returns. So much so that Disney forced the Alamo to be recut from its R rating to a PG-13 rating and be pushed back to Easter weekend of 2004. Unfortunately, it was released the same weekend as Passion of the Christ, which overshadowed the release. There was a joke that only in America could Jesus outweigh patriotism on the big screen. A couple of Pink Floyd, The Wall facts. They hired an actual skinhead hate group to play the Hammer's fascist members in the movie. In one scene at the end of Run Like Hell there's a group of them scampering away down an alley. That was the last time they were seen. They ran off with the uniforms and everything. Also in the Run Like Hell part of the movie there is a girl getting raped in a car, supposedly an actual unprovoked rape, like they filmed the whole riot with the skinheads improv style, actual calamity and violence. During the shooting of Rocky IV, a joke went around the cast and crew that if they do a fifth movie, Rocky will have to fight an alien because he's beaten everyone on Earth. This joke got to the writing staff except they didn't know it was a joke and actually started working on a script where Rocky Balboa fights an alien gladiator in a boxing match. They'd gotten so far along the script when they found out it was a joke that they just kept working on it afterwards. The result was the movie Predator. I figure people know all facts about movies but my favorite too. Silence of the Lambs in the first scene with Hannibal, he gives Clarice the answer for where Buffalo Bill is. She asks about his drawings on the wall and the only one talks about is the view from the Belvedere. Buffalo Bill was in Belvedere, Ohio. Jurassic Park when Newman slips in the mud after getting his Jeep stuck. There is a slide and whistle sound effect. I can't unhear. In 7, the studios tried to have the head in the box be Pitt's dog. The studio even had rewritten the script and sent it to the director and Pitt. Fortunately they both had already seen and signed on because of the eventual ending, and refused to change it. They also had another ending where Somerset kills Dole before Mills can, thereby ruining Wrath. Studios didn't want the protagonist to have a negative ending. Also the head in the box was the same fake head that they used for Gwyneth in Contagion. In Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman, there is a farewell scene with the two stars kissing inside an airplane hangar. The hangar has a plane outside Lockheed Electra 12A with a bunch of people working around it. The production was not allowed to film at an airport after dark for security reasons, so they used a sound stage with a small cardboard cutout airplane in forced perspective. The strange part is to give perspective of distance, they use little people for the workers. The movies Goodfellas and My Blue Heaven were both based on or inspired by the same guy. Goodfellas is a non-fiction book by Nick Pileggi based on interviews with the real Hank Hill. Nick Pileggi was married to Nora Ephron who wrote the screenplay for My Blue Heaven. The two movies even share a line of dialogue right after I got here. I ordered some spaghetti with marinara sauce, and I got egg noodles and ketchup. I like to pretend that My Blue Heaven is a sequel to Goodfellas. It is a widely discussed Easter egg in Toy Story 3 that at the beginning of the film, there is a garbage man who wears the same t-shirt that Sid wore in the first movie. Many online outlets were quick to point this out, theorizing that this might actually be Sid now grown up. What all of these outlets failed to realize is that while they were distracted by the credits sequences, Sid was actually listed in the credits. So yes, it is Sid. Hard confirm. You are not a sleuth for noticing this. In Aliens, after the first encounter with the aliens, as the Marines are retreating, there is a scene where they get in the troop carrier, and as they are getting ready to leave, an alien tries to get in. Hicks picks his shotgun off the deck, jams it in the alien's mouth, yells Ethos and blows it away. That whole scene was shot backwards because the actor, Michael Biehn, couldn't perform the move properly, so it was shot backwards, played in reverse, and then sound dubbed over it. Annie 1982, Carol Burnett and, apropos to this tale, Albert Finney. The scene where we first meet Daddy Warbucks Albert Finney, he's looking at the Mona Lisa and tells the servants to take her away, then he changes his mind saying, "She has an interesting smile. I could get used to that smile." Hang her in the bathroom. The joke here is that the first owner after Leonardo died was King Francis I of France, who had her hanging in his bathing room. E.T. and Poltergeist were developed from the same story about alien abductions. Steven Spielberg wrote a story treatment called Watch the Skies and had John Sayles flesh it out as a draft called Night Skies. Spielberg later decided to shift it in a more heartwarming direction, resulting in E.T., so he tapped Tobe Hooper to film the original version, but Hooper replaced aliens with the paranormal and it became Poltergeist. In Wayne's World, when Wayne plays Stairway to Heaven and the store clerk points to a sign that says "No Stairway to Heaven," the audience is led to believe the clerks banned the song because they were tired of hearing it. However, the actual song was supposed to be featured in the movie, but Led Zeppelin's PR people pulled the plug at the last minute. So when Wayne says "No Stairway," denied. That's what he means. The movie Dead Zone and Christmas Story were being filmed only a couple miles away from each other at the same time. Both productions were waiting for snow so they could film. It was a usually snowless winter. Finally, late in the season there was a significant snowfall. The scene where Sheriff Bannerman arrives at Johnny's house is being filmed at the exact moment of the tongue to the flagpole scene. My first girlfriend and her sister sang in I think the end credits of the Care Bears movie too. Their dad was involved with the soundtrack. I'm pretty sure I found her on IMDb with the music credit. Not sure if that's a weird fact or just a random factoid. Hollywood is a small place. Poke your nose in, and you'll run into someone who was in work zone knows something weird about a movie. Man tipping hand. In Fight Club, Marla's original line after having sex with Tyler was "I want to have your abortion." The studio deemed this way too offensive, and demanded it be changed. The producer agreed to change it only after the studio agreed that whatever he changed it to, they would have no say in it. He changed it to "I haven't been fucked like that since grade school." Edit spelling is hard. Lucille Ball's first screen role was as a blonde slave girl dancer in the big musical numbers from Roman Scandals in 1933. She didn't become a redhead until she died at Fred Dewberry was a lady a decade later. For the VHS version of the 1967 cult classic The President's Analyst, they couldn't get the rights to a Barry McGuire song, so they substituted an uncredited song that turned out to be really good, and a perfect fit for that scene. For the DVD, they went back to the original song, and the other one is not available anywhere except the VHS version of that movie. In the song Be Prepared in the original animated version of The Lion King, actor Jeremy Irons didn't sing the whole song either because he couldn't hit the notes or because he got bronchitis. Regardless, Disney got legendary voice actor Jim Cummings to fill in. Don't believe me? Check the end credits. Jim is credited right alongside Irons for singing the sing. There was a shot in The Last Jedi when Finn and Rose are on Canobite when the camera dollies through tables before it gets to the main actors. It mirrors a shot from the 1927 film Wings, the first Oscar Best Picture winner. Here's a side-by-side I found on YouTube. The original Halloween in 1978 took place in Illinois in October. However, it was filmed in California in the springtime. To make it more believable, they had bags of dead autumn leaves shipped in. There was a person whose job it was to scatter the leaves around the set, then bag them back up and move them to the next filming location. The 4 segments in the Rodriguez-Tarantino movie 4 Rooms are all based on short stories by Roald Dahl. But it gets better. Sorry, this might be a bit UK specific. The Tarantino segment. The "I bet my pinky finger my lighter will light first time, 10 times on the trot." That was a story for the very first Tales of the Unexpected. In Tin Cup, in the scene where Kevin Costner kept breaking his golf clubs and Cheech Marin yells at him, the script didn't call for him to get quite that angry. He said later that, in character, watching a talented person who couldn't stop screwing up brought back all the anger he felt toward Tommy Chong as he watched him fall apart. The exercise sequence Joe Does in Carousel 3, which was released in August of 2023, was actually shot in April of 2021 when Carousel 2 was being shot, because the team was unsure if they'd ever be able to access the warehouse location again. It was the only definitely planned scene for the third film. Nothing else was written yet. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Judge Doom, played by Christopher Lloyd, never blinks once the entire movie. I won't say why for the sake of spoilers. I could talk at length about the crazy techniques and control rigs they developed to create what was the best ever integration of live action and animation, but that's my favorite fact. The movie City of Angels, where Nicolas Cage plays an angel that falls in love with the character played by Meg Ryan because she reminds him of someone he loved when he was alive, is an unadmitted sequel to Leaving Las Vegas, where he died as a severe alcoholic that at the end of his life was in love with Elizabeth Shue. In the movie, taken the scene where Liam's character is interrogating his daughter's kidnapper. It shows the electric wires are attached to the chair. Originally, the scene shows large nails jabbed into the kidnapper's legs. Electric wires were connected to these nails, and the professional one Gary Oldman responds, "Everyone he was just supposed to say it quietly like a quick yeah, everyone, but just started screaming like that instead." Here's Gary Oldman talking about it in an interview. In The Godfather, when Johnny Fontane is talking with Don Corleone at his office, at the end of the scene Don Vito goes to the door and opens it, and you can briefly see an extra, a lady, that steps into the scene, realizes that she shouldn't be there, and quickly steps back. If you blink, you'll miss it. In Titanic, the lake in Wisconsin where Jack says he fell through the ice didn't exist yet. When Jack told Rose about how cold the water in the North Atlantic was, he mentioned himself falling through the ice in Lake Wissota, Wisconsin. Titanic sank in 1912, and Lake Wissota wasn't created until 1917.